Sunday morning here at 105.5 WDHA on the Jersey Magazine. I'm Jim Monaghan. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And with regard to that, my guest this morning is Dr. Bonnie Kaplan. She is a research psychologist and also the co-author of The Better Brain, How to Overcome Anxiety, Combat Depression, and Reduce ADHD and Stress with Nutrition. Bonnie, good morning and welcome to the Jersey Magazine.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jim.
One of the things that you talk about in your book is hidden brain hunger. Tell our listeners what that's about, Bonnie.
Well, it's hidden in multiple ways. The most obvious one is look around. You see people, they look like they're adequately nourished, maybe even overly nourished. But what doesn't show is that what we are eating now is not feeding our brains by and large. In fact, more, according to the US government data, the analyses that came out just about 4 months ago, more than 50% of what people in America are now putting in their mouths, and by the way, it's the same here in Canada where I live, more than 50% of what they're putting in their mouths is ultra-processed chemical stuff. And that's the packaged and bagged food that doesn't have any of the minerals and vitamins that we need going through our brains every minute of every day. They have, carbohydrates, fats, and protein, the macronutrients, but they don't have the roughly 30 minerals and vitamins plus the essential fatty acids that our brains rely on. And so our research, the other way in which it's hidden, Jim, is the research that my co-author, Julia Ruckledge, and I have done, and others around the world, show very conclusively that this is showing up as mental disorders, and that we can make mental disorders much less serious, much less of a problem by improving micronutrient, mineral and vitamin intake. So it's hidden, but we know it. I mean, the scientific data show it's there.
What are some of the mental health disorders that are so closely associated with this hidden brain hunger, as you call it?
Well, Jim, I always say that God didn't create our brain with the DSM in hand, right? So rather than disorders, which are those little boxes that psychiatrists have to put us in, I mean, there's a reason to have those categories. We tend to talk about symptoms. And so the symptoms of mood regulation, anxiety, also ADHD, ability to focus, energy, etc., all of those things, stress resilience, so important right now. All of those can be ameliorated in many people by improving the micronutrient intake in their diet or with supplements.
Who do you find has been more affected by this, adults or kids?
Well, if you look at the government data that came out in the US, as I say, about 4 months ago, it's the children's data that just scare the bejesus out of me. I mean, we're doing a horrible nationwide or society-wide experiment because according to that data, 67%, 2/3 of what they're consuming has no micronutrients. With adults, it's just a tiny bit better. It's 50%, 57%, so 67 versus 57%. That's why I always just say over half of what our society is consuming is not feeding their brains. But I really worry about those developing brains. And what do we do in our current conventional healthcare system? Do we say, oh, let's teach them about nutrition. Let's show them this vast evidence base for treating with nutrition? No, we throw medications at those little developing brains. And I don't think that should not be the first step.
Yeah, there is I think a time and a place for medication.
Absolutely.
It certainly, has proven over the years, the track record there. But I think I would agree with you, Dr. Kaplan, that it shouldn't necessarily be the first thing that we throw out. Well, let's put this adult or this child on whatever this medication first thing out. I think that there are some other extenuating things that we might want to look at first.
Right. Chapter 12 of our book is, I had more fun writing this one, Jim, than any other. It's called Our Vision for Tomorrow. And it really is a rational way to deliver mental health treatment. And it starts out with nutrition education. That should start in the elementary schools. And certainly in medical schools right now, physicians are not really taught about the importance of micronutrients for brain metabolism. That's in chapter 2 of our book. Anyway, and after nutrition education and getting people to appreciate how to improve their diet, maybe consider supplements, consider all the family supports, exercise and meditation, breathing, yoga, all these things can help a lot of people. Only later should we consider medication if that is not sufficient up to that point. And that's why I call medication a supplement. And I don't call nutrients supplements. Nutrients should be our primary treatment.
You mentioned the word exercise almost in passing just now. How important does exercise play a role in all of this?
Well, it's very important. There's just as with nutrition, there is a solid amount of information showing that improving one's exercise improves mental health. But I always like to point out that, okay, you're improving the oxygenation in the brain, you're improving health and well-being and energy and all of those things. But wouldn't it be better if we simultaneously improve nutrition so that the blood perfusing our brain is bringing more of the vitamins and minerals that are needed to create the neurotransmitters we need, for example? So anyway, they go together. Is that a silly answer? It's
No,
truth.
not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
We're speaking this morning with research psychologist Bonnie J. Kaplan here on the Jersey Magazine at 105.5 WDHA, co-author of The Better Brain, How to Overcome Anxiety, Combat Depression, and Reduce ADHD and Stress with Nutrition, all as part of Mental Health Awareness Month. In going through some of what's in the book, Dr. Kaplan, how much of all of this that we deal with just on a regular basis, bad nutrition, exercise, whatever, how much has all of this been exacerbated by that little thing called the pandemic that we've been dealing with now for a little over 2 years?
Yeah, it's a huge issue. We have a whole chapter in there on the resilience research that Julia and I have done, mostly Julia, who's at University of Canterbury in Christchurch, New Zealand. But we've shown that in 4 to 6 weeks after earthquakes in New Zealand, after a major flood in southern Alberta, where I live, and after the mass shootings, the massacres in the mosques back in Christchurch, that you improve resilience, enable people to cope better with and bring down their depression, anxiety, and stress in 4 to 6 weeks. And comparison treatments did not come anywhere near that. So we know about the importance of nutrition for resilience. But you know, our ancestors knew that, Jim. I mean, we've known for millennia that nutrition is the foundation of our physical and mental resilience. I can't give you a history lesson here, but there's some amazing quotations from 100 years ago, 500 years ago. It's been known for years. You know what I tell people? May I add one little tagline here? So people talk about comfort food, and I think if people would just read chapter 2 of our book, people tell me it transforms their understanding. They finally get why they really should change the way they eat. And instead of talking about comfort food, we would talk about resilience food.
If you were going to suggest to WDHA listeners the one change, if they were going to start making a change in their diet to make an effect on mental health and what have you, what would that first change be?
Well, it's been said before by Michael Pollan, by Dr. Andrew Weil, eat real food. And that means get rid of the packages, never drink liquid sugar, get rid of all of that kind of stuff, get rid of the chips. Actually, don't get rid of them. Don't buy them to begin with, because if you don't buy it, you don't eat it. If it's not in your house, you don't eat it. So the decision-making happens when we go into a store.
It's funny that you say that, because every so often my wife will say, you know, what do you want me to get such and such from the grocery store? And I'll say, no, because if you buy it, I'll eat it.
That's right.
You know, and there isn't a ton of junk food in the house, but every so often. If WDHA listeners want to learn more, Bonnie, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
You know, I am told that my own personal website is enormously rich with information. It tells about the book. It tells you how to contact me. There are videos, articles, tips, etc. So let's give that out, Jim. And it's my name, but you have to use my middle initial. So it's bonniejkaplan.com. I'll spell that for you. It's BONNIEJKAPLAN.com.
Research psychologist Bonnie J.
Okay.
Kaplan with us this morning, co-author of The Better Brain, How to Overcome Anxiety, Combat Depression, and Reduce ADHD and Stress with Nutrition. Thank you so much for spending time. I've learned a lot this morning, and hopefully our listeners have as well. And once again, that website is bonniejkaplan.com. Thank you again, and best of luck with the book.
Thank you very much.